Okay, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into an explainer on a medical phenomenon that honestly sounds like pure science fiction. But I promise you, it's entirely real. It's a profound mystery that completely upends our fundamental understanding of the brain, biology, and the very essence of consciousness itself. Picture this. You have a patient who has been absolutely lost to severe dementia for years. We're talking about someone who hasn't recognized their own family, hasn't spoken a single word in a decade. And then, out of nowhere, they just wake up. They say a perfectly lucid goodbye, they recount old memories, they express love, all just hours before passing away. How on earth does a failing biological machine suddenly run flawlessly right before it completely breaks down? Now, you might be thinking this is just some rare one-off anomaly, right? Well, actually, caregivers and doctors have been documenting these startling moments of clarity for over 250 years. It's wild. These accounts strongly hint that the core of who a person is might still be completely intact beneath the heavy veil of their illness. They haven't disappeared at all. They're just out of reach. So, let's outline this scientific problem here, a mind in a failing machine. Before we go any further, we really need to get our terminology straight. We're talking specifically about terminal lucidity, which is a sudden return of clarity that happens right before death, usually within hours or days. Now, this is slightly different from paradoxical lucidity, which is a broader term for unexpected mental clarity that contradicts a disease but can happen months before death. For this explainer, our focus is strictly on that final terminal spark. To truly grasp the sheer magnitude of this mystery, we have to look at the historical, mind-blowing case of Anna Katharina Emmer. This was reported by the chief physician of her care facility, and it's one of those impossible, real-world cases that literally pushes the boundaries of neuroscience. Anna lived for 26 years with profound mental disabilities. She never spoke a single word. Severe meningitis had physically destroyed the actual brain tissue that's normally required for intelligent reasoning. Yet, in her final 30 minutes of life, she suddenly sang dying songs with absolute perfect clarity. Just think about that for a second. If the physical structures required for language and memory were literally physically destroyed, where was her mind hiding all those years? How did she suddenly produce coherent music? It's literally like playing a beautiful, flawless symphony on a piano that has had every single one of its strings cut. All right, moving on to the experiment phase, scanning the dying brain. Scientists aren't just relying on old stories anymore. Organizations like the U.S. National Institute on Aging are stepping up and actually using EEG recordings to observe the electrical changes during the dying process. And what makes this incredibly groundbreaking is that they aren't just looking at coma patients. They are actively tracking the electrical activity of brains in a state of terminal lucidity, while the patients are completely conscious and awake. And here is what they found. They observed this crazy biological cascade. Basically, as the body starts to fail, brain oxygen levels drop, a state known as hypoxia. But instead of just powering down like you'd naturally expect, this drop triggers a massive flood of neurotransmitters, things like dopamine and serotonin. This chemical flood ironically hyperactivates the brain, essentially waking up these dormant, silent synapses. This brings us to the results: surges, bypasses, and the great debate. We'd assume a dying brain just quietly fades to black, but the data tells a highly energetic story. Researchers found these organized surges of high-frequency gamma waves. Think of it kind of like a traffic detour. The brain literally builds temporary new roads around the damaged tissue, suddenly accessing trapped memories right before the whole system collapses. Now, as you can imagine, these results have sparked a massive debate. And we're going to look at this totally impartially. On one side, you have the materialists. They argue that this lucidity is simply an undiscovered mechanical function, basically just a final, unmapped electrical search of the physical brain. On the flip side, dualists argue this data suggests consciousness might be a distinct entity that temporarily breaks free from the failing physical hardware. So you have both sides looking at the exact same scientific data to try and solve the ultimate mind-body problem. But listen, regardless of where you fall in that philosophical debate, the real-world application here is absolutely vital. For hospice workers and palliative care, terminal lucidity gives families this unexpected, truly beautiful window. It allows for the mending of broken relationships, the sharing of final goodbyes, and ultimately, it helps bereaved families find some much-needed, lasting peace. Let's shift gears to the meaning, the resilient human self. Beyond the hard medical data, what does this actually tell us about ourselves? While the mind-bending implication here is that our core identity might be incredibly resilient. Our memories, our quirks, our capacity to love, they are not permanently erased by a disease like dementia. They are merely blocked. The person is still right there inside, just waiting for the exact right physical conditions to shine through one last time. Terminal lucidity completely challenges our most basic, fundamental assumptions about cognitive decline. It strongly suggests that the human essence possesses a profound resilience that current science is only just beginning to map out.
Which brings us to our final contemplation.
I want to leave you with this one thought. If a physically failing brain can suddenly unlock a lifetime of lost memories right at the absolute threshold of death, is human consciousness truly and strictly bound by biology? Take a moment to think about what this means for your own existence, your identity, and the extraordinary, enduring mystery of the human mind.